That was some singing going on up there, y'all. Whew, my goodness. Hallelujah! The rains came, and the winds blew.
I want to make sure that the screen is that we're recording. I see a picture on the screen. Just checking in. All right.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
Okay, let's try that one more time.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah! And the rains came, and the winds blew, and my hair has not been the same since. Welcome to Emerson, and especially today to today's visitors. We gather here in person and as an extended community with those online. Wave, y'all. Wave at the people online. Okay. Unitarian Universalism is unambiguously, unapologetically progressive. This congregation affirms the inherent worth and dignity of all people through anti-racism, anti-oppression, supporting the LGBTQIA plus community, working for reproductive justice and voting rights, and other issues as the world calls us to side with love. We seek to build a beloved community not only here, but in the wider community that we live and work in by living out our shared Unitarian Universalist values. And we bring a spirit of joy to it all. It is so good to be here together this morning. It is so exciting to have you with us. And now we pause to light our chalice as a symbol of our shared Unitarian Universalism faith. And Garnet, tiptoe through the tulips. Thank you, Garnet. I'd like to read for you the chalice lighting words by Melanie Davis. Under the right circumstances, playing with fire is a delight. Imagine being gathered around a fire pit as the crackling flames invite us to sing and dance and roast a marshmallow or two. Our chalice also invites us to play, although play with ideas rather than with marshmallows. The flame encourages us to explore who we are, who our neighbors are, and where we are on our spiritual journeys. Today we light this chalice in the spirit of play. Let us trust the light to guide us in this hour, and in the days to come, finding joy along the way. And now, in the spirit of love and the beloved community, let's greet and welcome each other to this new day as we share our congregational affirmation. We need not think alike to love alike. Let's greet and welcome each other to this new day. Those in the sanctuary, feel free to move around and to offer greetings. And for those of you online, please use the chat to introduce yourself.
Hello and good morning. My name is Reverend Christina Branum-Martin, and I'm the minister here, and I am so privileged to be able to be a part of this wonderful congregation. Today's theme is joy. It seems like a hard thing to talk about when so many things are going on. And yet, as I will talk about in the message later, sometimes joy is what we need to get through. These words by Donna Ashworth are called Joy Chose You. Joy does not arrive with a fanfare on a red carpet strewn with flowers for a perfect life. Joy sneaks in as you pour your cup of coffee and you watch the sun hit your favorite tree in the yard just right. And you usher joy away because you're not ready for it. Your house is not as it must be for such a distinguished guest. But joy cares nothing about your messy home, or your bank balance, or your waistline. Joy is supposed to slither through the cracks of your imperfect life. That's how joy works. So hug her with meaning, because in this very moment, joy chose you. Come, let us worship together. Let us sing. And we are singing This Little Light of Mine. I had the wrong one in my book. This is one we sing often, but it is so joyful. And you might even know the refrain of Hallelujah that I'll be singing out in the midst of it all. So please stand if your body allows, or sing with your voice as it raises to the ceiling. Our dearest Susan will take us into a moment of joys and sorrows and concern, and Garnet will be helping us with our stones.
Good morning. I'm Susan Ullman, a member of our Emerson Pastoral Care Team. I welcome you. Let's pause and reflect now on matters of the heart. Thank you, Garnet, for placing stones today. For this morning's ritual, we have water and we have river stones. The stones are smooth and the stones have weight. They're indicative of life's pleasures and times of ease, as well as life's burdens and times of heaviness. The water receives these stones with ease and with calmness. Each week, you're invited to write a joy, sorrow, or concern statement in this book that's on the clear podium back there, or send it in to pastoralcare@emersonuu.org to be read. If you're online, we invite all of you to recreate this at your home. Place a stone in a bowl of water near you to honor what's in your heart. We begin by placing 4 stones. The first in honor of the Cherokee and Muskogee nations of indigenous people who lived here before us. The second for those wrongly enslaved here who labored on this land. The third for all those killed or injured by gun violence in this country. And the fourth for all those hurting in current conflicts and wars that rage across the globe. And Garnet, I'd like you to add a fifth for everybody affected by Helene and everybody who cares about everybody affected. Please. Within our community, we share quite a few statements. The first from the Buddhist meditation group. Thanks to Emerson for hosting our first meditation retreat yesterday. Sitting meditation, walking meditation, and an art project, and a labyrinth walk. It was an inspirational day for all. That's wonderful. From Debbie Ballou, please send thoughts to my niece who lives just south of Asheville, North Carolina. We have not heard from her since Friday morning, and water was coming into her basement at that time. From Karen Pichette, today we celebrate our youngest child's 30th birthday. Happy birthday, Christina. And a second joy, I was in St. Augustine, Florida. St. Augustine? Yes, last week, and was happy to visit the St. Augustine Beach UU congregation, their extended family. From Crystal Ramos, my short story, Smoking the DeLorean, will be published in the online literary magazine Please See Me this fall. That's wonderful. Okay, yes. And from John Malick, the Emerson drummers are celebrating their 28th anniversary by continuing to play ecstatic celebratory rhythms. Thank you, John, and we really appreciate them. And from Maria Benitez and her family, thoughts go out to her as she heals and recovers from knee surgery. She's at home. Her contact information is in Realm, and I bet she'd love to hear from people. Cards, emails, texts, maybe calls. In thankful awareness, let's say the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. Please read the words with me. They're printed in the order of service and on the screen. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be free from harm and suffering. May we all be well in body, heart, and mind. May we all be at peace. Blessed be.
Good morning. I realized I didn't introduce myself, and for those of you who don't know me, okay, I'm Mr. Ed. Before I get into talking about the Share of the Basket, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge and recognize our fabulous, phenomenal, exciting. Our choir is fabulous. Could we give them a hand this morning? There are congregations out there who would love to have a choir like this. Wow. And you're more than welcome to join us. Unitarian Universalism is a faith often referred to as one of deeds, not creeds. How we show up in the world is how we live our faith. One way we seek to do that is by partnering with other organizations who work to bring love, kindness, and justice into the world. And each month, Emerson chooses an organization to support with half of our collected donations. However, we've done 4 weeks of donations with Cobb Democracy Center and conversations with Reverend Christina. We felt that we might want to do something just a little bit different today. The storms that ravaged the Southeast this week I know it took out trees in my yard. I've heard of others who've had trees down. But there are also congregations, UU congregations, church buildings that were tremendously impacted by the storm this week. So our donations this week we'd like to make towards the UUA Disaster Fund. That's the UUA contributing funds to help those congregations who need it most during this time of disaster and recovery and just needing to get the big tree off the top of your church building. Isn't that right, Christine? In Augusta, a 100-year-old oak tree fell on top of the roof of the UU congregation's church. We haven't heard from Asheville, but all along the coast, we have our community, our extended community in need. So we're asking today's congregation to be a special congregation. I even heard that there's a UU minister whose home had a tree fall and it burst the water pipes, and no matter how much they tried to shut the water off at the main, the water kept coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. There's a lot of people hurting right now. So as we take this collection, keep those in mind who are in need and need us. Thank you so much. Your gifts, your giving are so deeply, deeply appreciated. Thank you again.
Can I have the young and the Parsons join me up here?
I'm looking because I think that some of you old people out there need to be up here with the young at heart. I'm just saying. Okay, guys, I've got a story for you today that is absolutely phenomenally fantastic. It is the best story in the whole wide world. Are you ready to hear it? Yes? Okay, here we go. The name of the story is Elmer, and it's by David McGee. And you'll be able to see the pictures up on the screen, okay? All right. There was once a herd of elephants. Elephants young, elephants old. Elephants tall and fat or thin. Elephants like this, that, or the other. All different, but all happy and all the same color. All that is, except Elmer. Elmer was different. Elmer was patchwork. Elmer was yellow and orange and red and pink and purple and blue and green and black and white. Elmer was not elephant color. It was Elmer who kept the elephants happy. Sometimes he joked with the other elephants. Sometimes they joked with him. But if there was even a little smile, it was usually Elmer who started it. One night, Elmer couldn't sleep for thinking that he was tired of being different. Who ever heard of a patchwork elephant? He thought. No wonder they laugh at me. In the morning, before the others were really awake, Elmer slipped away quietly, unnoticed. As he walked through the jungle, Elmer met other animals. They all said, "Good morning, Elmer." And each time, Elmer smiled and he said, "Good morning." After a long walk, Elmer found what he was looking for, a large bush covered with berries, a large bush covered with elephant-colored berries. Elmer caught hold of the bush and shook it so that the berries fell on the ground. Once the ground was covered in berries, Elmer lay down and rolled over and over, the way and that way and this way and that way and back again. Then he picked up the bunches of berries and rubbed it all over himself, covering himself with berry juice until there wasn't a sign of any yellow or orange or red or pink or purple or blue or green or black or white. And when he had finished, Elmer looked like any other elephant. After that, Elmer set off back to the herd. On the way, he passed the other animals again, and this time each one of them said to him, "Well, good morning, elephant." And each time Elmer smiled and said, "Good morning," pleased that he wasn't recognized. When Elmer rejoined the other elephants, they were all standing quietly. None of them noticed Elmer as he worked his way to the middle of the herd. After a while, Elmer felt something wrong. But what? He looked around. Same old jungle. Same old bright blue sky. Same old rain cloud that came over from time to time. And lastly, same old elephants. Elmer looked at them. The elephants were standing and obviously still. Elmer had never seen them so serious before. The more he looked at the serious, the silent, still, and standing elephants, the more he wanted to laugh. Finally, he could bear it no longer. He lifted his trunk, and at the top of his voice, he shouted, "Boo!" As they laughed, the rain cloud burst, and when the rain fell on Elmer, his patchwork started to show again. The elephant still laughed as Elmer was washed back to normal. "Oh, Elmer," gasped an old elephant, "you've played some good jokes, but this has been the biggest laugh of all. It didn't take you long to show your true colors." "We must celebrate this day every year," said another. "This will be Elmer's Day. All the elephants must decorate themselves, and Elmer will decorate himself elephant color." This is exactly what the elephants do. And on one day of the year, they decorate themselves and parade. On that day, if you happen to see an ordinary elephant color, you will know it must be Elmer. Elmer, all right. Great. That was a pretty neat story, wasn't it, guys? So tell me, guys, do you understand that if you try to change something about yourself, still on the inside, who are you? You're still the same. And that's good enough. Let's sing our song of dedication. Love is the doctrine of this church, but quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to spell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. Thus do we promise to each other.
As the little ones go off to the nursery and to play together, we join now in a time of prayer and meditation and centering. Today's service is about joy, and yet I am feeling the weight on my heart as I think about those who have been affected by the storm. My sister is in Brevard, North Carolina, and I have not heard from her. I haven't seen any reports of huge, disastrous road slides or anything like that, but I understand all the cell towers are out and might be for a while. So I invite all of us to take a moment to think of those in your life who you have not heard from, who you are holding in care, perhaps those in Nashville or Florida or Tennessee. Raise your voice with their name in prayer and focus for their health and their safety. Let's take a moment. I raise the voice of Carrie and Rowan and Seth. Our prayers are our dreams and hopes for those we love and for the things that we want to bring into the world. May raising their names now carry our love to them, even though we are far away. I'm going to read to you now what I originally planned to have as our prayer to help set the story of what we're doing today. The 14th century poet Hafez wrote, I sometimes forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too busy. My heart is too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance in the sacred dance of life. I remember that I was created to smile, to love, to be lifted up, and to lift others up. O Sacred One, we pray, entangle our feet from all that ensnares. Free our souls that we might dance, and that our dancing may be contagious. May it be so. May our prayers go out to those we love. And amen. What we have next is a video as our anthem that is joyful. I invite you to sit comfortably and snap your fingers to it if you are so moved.
You're my life, you're my breath, you're a smile, you're my guest. You're the earth, you're the sun, you're the grass, you are love. You're my hands, you're a bug, you're my eyes, you're a hug. You're the light in the dark, you're the spark, you are fun. You're my mom, you are water, you're the stars, you're my daughter. You're my friend till the end, you're my dreams, you're my father. You're the ants on the ground, the miracles that surround. I'm feeling it all around, the hemisphere in the clouds. You're my pain, you're my sorrow, you're my hope for tomorrow. You're the strength when I'm hollow, you're the path that I follow. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss. The gift to realize that everything
all
is a
that
gift.
I am, all that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all, for it all. Grateful for it
You're the
all.
blessings every time I try to count. You're the lessons that I learn every time I turn around. You're the water when I'm burned every time I think I found everything I'm looking for. You're the sign saying stop to take a bow and keep moving forward and start looking towards your heart. It'll open all the doors and only then you'll start to hear the world singing chorus with your mind and heart. Aligned in purpose, everything
All
will feel
that I
gorgeous.
am, all that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all.
Every day I sit and pray cause what I have is more than I deserve or could ever imagine. How do I give back to all of this magic and spread the love so everybody can have it? Doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor, if I got a family or if I'm all alone. Bad things happen, I can just complain and moan. Well, there's a million things that I can be grateful for.
So I lift up my hands now, and I open my heart, and my gratitude goes out to everything near and far. All that I am,
Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for exist, the small things that are bliss, the gift to realize that everything is a gift.
This reading is called Blessing of Courage by Jan Richardson. I cannot say where it lives, only that it comes to the heart that is open, to the heart that asks, to the heart that does not turn away. It can take practice, days of tugging at what keeps us bound, seasons of pushing against what keeps our dreaming small. When it arrives, it might surprise you by how quiet it is, how it moves with such grace for possessing such power. But you will know it by the strength that rises from within you to meet it, by the release of the knot in the center of your chest that suddenly lets go. You will recognize it by how still your fear becomes as it loosens its grip, perhaps never quite leaving you, but calmly turning into joy as you enter the life that is finally your own.
Thank you, Kelly. Lately, I've been feeling the weight of so much on my shoulders. And that weight I carry in my body. Sometimes it catches my breath. I'm worried about the escalating wars in the world, about widening climate change. And I recently lost a close friend from a quick bout with cancer. And I'm worried about the election and the state of our democracy and so much more. The list is long, and I know that my list could be so much longer if we shared together what is being carried by you too. We each carry these in our bodies. They become a part of how we move in the world. I need to take a breath and remember that there is space for joy also. In order to do that, I have to take a deep breath. Will you take a breath with me now? Cultivating joy is a revolutionary act. And I argue today that it is fundamental for our survival. In a book titled Inciting Joy by Ross Gay, he asks us to ponder the questions: what if joy was not separate from pain? What if joy and pain are fundamentally tangled up with one another? Or even to the point, what if joy is not entangled with pain or suffering or sorrow, but is also what emerges from how we care for each other through those things? What if joy, instead of a refuge or relief from our heartbreak, is what comes up, and he uses such a great word? What if it is what effervesces from us as we help each other carry our heartbreak? He invites us in his book to set out an empty chair at the table and invite sorrow in for a conversation, and to make it a cup of hot tea. Ask sorrow where it's coming from. Ask sorrow to speak its own story. And then share your own. And that conversation will lead you to a place of further understanding of what sorrow is bringing to your life. Then, he says, invite another as you set out another chair, and then another person, and then another, and soon you'll have a potluck. And sorrow will share its stories, and you will share yours. And around the table, the stories and the dreams and even laughter may come. And after being together, you will discuss your lives and come to share the principles and the rituals and your understandings of who you are and where you are at that moment. And it is through that experience that you will find the connection to life itself. That being together is what we need. Now, he says, this does not mean that your sorrows have to be the same as the others at the table, but it's rather the sharing of the sorrow itself that allows for us to see what is in common. And what is in common is what we love. And that love leads us into joy. And joy is fundamental to our survival. As I was reading his book, I thought of the teachings of Buddhism. In Buddhism, the very purpose of life is to avoid suffering and to discover happiness in the process of acceptance and understanding of our own suffering. And it's the work of Buddhist practice that is to learn to live with joy in the face of life's inevitable sorrows. There's a wonderful book that has been feeding my heart and mind and soul these days. It's a book called The Book of Joy, and it was written as a way to capture the conversations between two amazingly joyful people, the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. They ponder together the ways in which they have found deep joy in their own lives, despite their personal experiences such as exile from their country for over 5 decades. Decades of imprisonment, and so much lived sorrow of the people that they care for. They share a simple mantra in the book that joy is much bigger than happiness. They say that happiness is understood as the opposite of pain and often seen as being dependent upon external circumstances. Yet, joy, they say, is a state of mind. We can transform joy from the ephemeral state into an enduring trait, they say, from a fleeting feeling into a lasting way of being. The Dalai Lama explained that Buddhists believe that joy is a natural state in which we come into the world as. And the ability to remember how to hold on to that, to experience joy in our daily life, is a skill to be cultivated. by putting our attention on the shared and indivisible connections to seeing and understanding the suffering of others. So empathy and compassion lead to a practice of cultivating joy. In response, Archbishop Tutu reflected that the Christian perspective of this teaching is that we do not pursue joy for its own right, like something that we just want to gather up and have more of all the time. He says we cultivate joy for others by working to counteract injustice and inequality. We can address the suffering that we experience and that others experience in the world. So in short, by working to minimize the pain of others, we heal our own pain. It's a virtuous cycle, a cycle of healing and joy and creating more as you move together to deal with the sorrows that we all experience. The more we turn to others, the more we see the suffering of others, the more joy we can experience. And this seems so counterintuitive, doesn't it? But he says it so poetically. He says the goal is not just to create joy for ourselves, but to be a reservoir of joy, an oasis of peace, a pool of serenity that can ripple out to others around you. In this way, joy is contagious, as is love and compassion and generosity. I find this book is so lovely, and the stories and reflections that they share about their own lives and the life work of joyful change that they have brought into the world sets up a structure of 8 pillars of joy, which they give stories to in the book. These 8 pillars are qualities of the heart and mind, and they give a reframe of allowing us ways to live more positively. And that fundamental foundation of joy changes us. They said that when we see the world more positively, it changes the way we feel, the way we act, and in turn changes the world itself. Or as the Buddha says in the Dhammapada, with our mind, we create our world. This might sound a little Pollyanna. And yet, I believe that this might be the perspective that I need at this time when I feel so much that I am carrying. I know that I want and need a wider perspective that helps me remember that I can create joy in my everyday life, despite all that seems to distract me from it. That joy comes from my connection to you. And this ultimately is what I need to survive. I need you to survive. And I need joy to be celebrated with you. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of Auschwitz, said that our perspective towards life is our final and ultimate freedom. So if there's any takeaway you have from today, it is that we see the world and the meaning we give to what we experience changes us. And in the face of sorrow, you can cultivate joy. So take a moment now and just take a breath. I invite you, if you want to close your eyes and think about what brings you joy in your life. Perhaps it's your cat. Perhaps it's hiking or chocolate. Perhaps it's reading your favorite book again and crying when it comes to the end because it's over. Take a moment and turn to the person next to you and share the first thing that came to mind. If you are online, you can put it in the chat to share with the community there. Thank you. So I have a story of a very unique thing that brought joy to my life. And I want to share it with you now with some pictures and a story about it. The first slide that comes up is a picture of a car covered with chalk paint. One of our family cars for 7 years was an art car. It was 18 years old when it finally went kaput. But the story of how this art car came to be embodies a model of my ministry and my sense of who and how I want to be as a Unitarian Universalist minister. The art car brought joy to people when they saw it. It brought people together in community. It was silly. And it invited people into the act of recreation, a wonderful turn of phrase to recreation. So this old Honda model had lost much of its paint after years in the West Texas desert where my mother had driven it years before. But it still had a lot of life in it. In my grief over losing her almost 10 years ago, this car was something I could hold on to help me work through that grief. And I brought the car home so that my soon-to-be teenager could drive it. But it barely had any paint left on it. And the cost of the paint job was more expensive than the value of the car itself. So we went to the hardware store, and we bought a can of chalk paint for $12.95 and a big paintbrush, and we painted the car, and it became a blank canvas on which we could play. We drew pictures, we shared poetry on it, and we asked questions for people to ponder. And the fun thing is that with each rainfall, the canvas was washed clean, and we could start over. I drove it for several years, and then my oldest child drove it in her college years. It had become a community point of interest where we live. And my daughter was known as the art car girl. We shared the car at local events, and most often children drew on it. And yet, when invited, adults openly would play too. It brought people together. And this art car was a medium for bringing people kind of out of their shell and invited unexpected playfulness and reflection amongst the rigidity of life. Most often, we would write a question on the car with brightly colored chalk, and our car parked right next to our house. We would leave a box of chalk and a package of wet wipes for chalky fingers. We left it by the bumper, and sometimes when we would go to the grocery store or out into the community, we would bring it with us and just set it up. And friends and neighbors and strangers would answer the questions. When we would say, "What does the world need more of?" or "What I love about my life," the answers were joyful and loving and profound. People would write, "Love, chocolate, world peace, Super Bowl victories, fried chicken, laughter, hugs, AA meetings, poetry, Jesus, art, time with my grandchildren, gratitude, and so much more." I was often surprised by how heartfelt the answers were, all written by people I would probably never meet. This art car allowed me to minister through others through art. At community events where meals were shared with those who were hungry and often unhoused, I would park the car and give out pieces of chalk, and those same smiling faces engaged in coming together in community. And at events such as these, the art car brought a moment of surprising joy. And on these nights, I wondered if the art car brought an experience to the community that might often not be available to them, just to simply play. During seminary, when I was a chaplain resident at a recovery center for men who had previously been homeless or incarcerated, part of the community building was to meet with me every week. We had a project, and they gave me permission to take pictures of this project over time as I created a blog about our project. Each week, I asked the group to come up with a theme for the car, a new question to ask, a new design, or even a canvas for the resident budding artist at the center to create on. And the car brought these men together to express themselves and explore new ways of being loving and accepting with each other. I was so proud of that ministry that I was being able to offer through play and collective experience. This was written on the last day of my residency there. This art project was recreational, certainly, but it allowed for the recreation of community through joy, from something as simple as multicolored sticks of chalk and a quart of inexpensive paint. My vision of ministry comes from a love of bringing people together in ways that foster joyful expression of themselves in ways that also deepen community. I look for different ways to recreate who we are together. And this art car was a means for this. It was a special ministry in and of itself. It was a way to claim joy as a revolutionary act. I'm going to add, while this slide is up, I'm going to add one more thing, Josh. I gave him the script for my slides, but I'm going off script now. I started my last congregation in Clemson, South Carolina, and Paula is here from that congregation. Hello, Paula. And Jorge. Yes, Ginger's sister and brother-in-law. I started in August of 2020. We all know we were not able to really be in person. How do you meet a congregation when you can't be in person? So I would drive my art car to people's homes and bring a couple of camp chairs and a table and a box of masks. And I'd set up in the driveway, and we would light a chalice. And we would be together far apart, and I'd bring a box of chalk and let the kids draw. And grown-ups too. We even did a parade through the parking lot of the congregation where the art car was decorated that says, "Being you means," and people took their turn coming up distance from each other to write the answer. And that's where this picture comes from. It will be a special memory of what COVID was for me. I miss that car. And maybe my old Prius, if it loses paint, might turn into an art car too, we'll see. So in closing of this service today, I know that joy comes to you through simple things, perhaps. Maybe the people in your life, or the dog that greets you when you get home, or the video game that you like to play before you go to bed. Who knows what it is? But you know that you too can cultivate joy in your life. When you make a space at the table for the sorrow and give it a cup of hot tea and invite others over to join you in that conversation, know that you are making the connections that can change your life. We need each other. May we bring more joy into this world that so sorely needs it. Amen, and may it be so. Let's sing together another joyful song, Come and Go With Me. It's in the teal hymnal if you want the music, number 1018.
Come and go with me to that land.
I chose that song because it is fitting and comes full circle. That song is an African American spiritual that was sung by people who were enslaved and working at a time when it was only their hopes and dreams for life itself that pulled them forward. That song was seeking a way to live. This joy of singing was itself a cry for what we need. May we remember to sing and to seek justice and to move forward towards that land in our lives. Garnet is going to come up and help us with the chalice extinguishing.
As our chalice is extinguished this morning, we extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Please join us next week as we do animal blessing service. That's going to be one of those services where you can bring your animal. I think last year we had a bird.
Yeah. Or a photo.
Or a photo of an animal, okay? And so we'll do animal blessing next week.
That's how much we raised today.
Oh, what?
7.
Also next week, we have a work day on October the 5th. That's a day when, we don't just give money to this community, but we give time and effort and sweat and a little muscle and the whole 9 yards, But we can use some help next Saturday morning. Please see the notebook, also your order of service about time. We'll make sure you've got some snacks here, but we need clippers to do the bushes, and we need shovels, and we need help on the inside doing things around. And so please join us next Saturday as we get together and make this property do the necessary work that we need to do. And a real shout out, and I'm just like, I told you in the stewardship piece that there's a lot of UU congregations suffering. Today, this congregation, and this doesn't include the ones that are being donated online to emersonuu.org, but just here we raised $773. Please join us for fellowship hour. You can go right down the hall here for refreshments. And also, we will have worship reflections here in the sanctuary to discuss today's topic. But before we leave, I just must say that my joy, my happiness, is each and every time I get to spend a moment with you. That brings me love and happiness. So go now in peace and take peace wherever you go.